So Steve Kerr goes on Draymond's podcast the other day, and the comments that caught headlines and are kind of circulating around Dub Nation were those about building a championship roster, championship chemistry, and how all the players have to be bought into the single goal of winning, and you can't worry about personal agendas. You can't worry about playing time or your role. You just have to worry about winning. And everybody kind of understood, well, hey, he's probably talking about Kuminga, Jordan Poole, the young guys, right? And then the next step was people kind of bringing up Juan T, Damian Lee, and some of these role players from the championship season. Now, I agree with Steve Kerr's sentiment, right? Like I think that is a very important thing when it comes to chemistry and reaching the ultimate achievement. But I think we need to add some context to who those players are, because I think you need to get the right players in the right situation. And the truth of the matter is Juan T, a Damian Lee, let's be honest, they were just happy to be there. And I don't want to diss those guys. I really don't, because it's not. Their journey to get to a championship team and play, you could argue, is more impressive than some of these lottery picks. If you want to be honest, their work ethic and what they had to do to get there. I'm not dissing those guys, but their perspective is completely different as opposed to a Jonathan Kuminga who has been a quote chosen one, right? From when he was 15 or 16, he was told he's going to be a star. And so it's very difficult, I think, for a guy with that trajectory to understand that and be in that position. This is a perfect time to tell you guys about today's sponsor. AG1, the nutritional drink that I have been using for a good 2 months now, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. It's become a staple in my day-to-day routine. The AG1 Minute, super convenient, mix it up, 75 vitamins and minerals in one spot, probiotics. I think over the 2 months, the biggest benefit that I've seen, and I hadn't paid enough attention to my adrenal health, right? You have a couple cups of coffee in the morning, maybe a pre-workout in the afternoon, and then, hey, if you have a soda at dinner, forget about it. The amount of caffeine you've consumed has your adrenals all out of whack. One AG1 a day has given me a clean, sustained energy and has allowed me to cut way back on my coffee and soda consumption, and I think reset my adrenals. And so that, to go along with the convenience and covering all my other nutrients, again, it's not something that I plan on stopping anytime soon. So if you want to try AG1, click the link in the description and you will get a 1-year free supply of an immune-supporting vitamin D3K2 and AMP, 5 travel packs free, because you can't put a price tag on your own health. Now, Moses Moody seemed to fit that role perfectly. But what did we hear from day one about Moses Moody? He's an old soul. He's wise beyond his years. So I think Moses is an outlier in that way. And to ask young players, young, highly touted players, to just fully buy in and not worry about their role is an unrealistic expectation. And maybe not, it may not have been a shot necessarily at the players themselves, but the roster construction from Steve. But I enjoyed the interview. Go check that out on Draymond's podcast. It's always full of information. I have been scouting the draft for the Warriors at 19 here for the last few weeks. I've released 3 scouting reports on my Patreon. The link is in the description. They're thorough. I'm very proud of them. It's Chris Murray, Leonard Miller, and Derek Lively II I released yesterday. And, to be honest with you, once you get out of the consensus top 10, it's hard to project who's going to be there. And there's a lot of posturing going on with workouts and ducking and whatnot. So I'm going to continue to do that all the way up in the draft. By the time the draft hits, I should have 7 or 8 prospects scouted. I don't know. And then we've talked trades. We talked Jordan Poole. There's a lot of possibilities and big blockbuster trades that frankly could happen. I'm not saying they're not realistic when you look at the landscape of the league, but what I wanted to do today was talk about maybe a more realistic option for this roster. That brings me to Yuta Watanabe. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. 29 years old, 6'8", 215 pounds, 4 years in the league. He went undrafted out of George Washington, won the Atlantic 10 Defensive Player of the Year in 2018. Probably first noticed him on the Raptors getting baptized. I think Ant caught him with a nasty one. He got dunked on several times in the last few years, and it was like, whoa. But I think the thing that caught people's eye was like, yo, bro is unfazed. Like, he just keeps jumping, right? And so you like that mentality. It stuck out. Last season, he finds himself on this supposed super team in the Brooklyn Nets. He's going to provide some size, some spacing, some defense, right? And we know now that that roster was eventually in shambles, right? And he ended up kind of having a breakout season, right? The corner three-point specialist, the PJ Tucker badge, if you will. What did he shoot? Like 50% from the corners from three is a ridiculous number. But I will say this, because you look at a PJ Tucker and some of these corner specialists, and because of their shot mechanics, they need the short corner. They don't truly have three-point range in the NBA, and so that's why that short corner is where they stay, right? I don't think that's the case with Watanabe when you look at his mechanics. I think he can shoot it from all over the place. It just so happened that that's where the majority of them came within the Nets offense. And that's the first thing you'll notice with Watanabe shooting is the mechanics are always the same, just like Otto Porter. And I know you may say, well, what do you mean? NBA players, their shot's their shot. That's not true. Guys, their mechanics break down in different ways, and some of these guys are far less consistent. And that was the one thing when Otto joined the Warriors, you were like, dang, his jumper looked the same every time, right? So does Watanabe's. It's a trait of a true shooter, right? And so if they were able to bring him in and fill that coveted stretch four position, the Otto Porter role, I think he is every bit the shooter that Otto Porter is. Where I think Otto beats him out, at least he did for the Warriors, was I think Otto was a little more physical, and I think he was a lot better on the glass. And to be honest, I didn't know Otto was that physical or that good of a rebounder until he showed up for Golden State. It kind of surprised me, but I don't think Watanabe is that physical or that good of a rebounder. But I think where he would make that up is he's a lot more spry, right? I wouldn't call him an athlete. I think what he is he's a basketball player with a high motor, and he's got good size and length, and he knows how to use that. And so right away, what I would think of is like, okay, he's going to get up and down the court better than Otto, and he's going to be able to finish in transition. And then offensively, honestly, I think he's a little more dynamic than Otto. As far as attacking a closeout, he'll make a nice play, right? And he cuts off the ball. Again, he's just a little more spry. And so what you may be losing in physicality and rebounding, you'll get back offensively with some more dynamic play. Not sure you'd want to play him at the 5 like they used Otto, but he absolutely fits the bill playing that position. Let's talk about him defensively. Again, not the greatest athlete, kind of stiff hips, right? But the motor's super high and the IQ is super high. And he uses his length and anticipation well. He's a good team defender. And then you get that shot blocking. I'm not going to call him a rim protector. He's not discouraging players from attacking the basket, but he's going to jump with you. He's going to contest. He's going to make you work for it. So that's a nice little added bonus. And, look, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. He screams warrior player, right? Kerr would love him. He fits the culture, he fits the system, and he fits the timetable. Now, the question is, could you get him for the vet min, right? That's a no-brainer, right? If that was the case, it'd be a no-brainer, right? Okay, sign him up, right? But kind of had a breakout year. And then you look at the landscape of the league right now, a stretch 4 who can defend a little bit, that's going to be one of the most coveted positions in the league. And so now you have to ask yourself, at what point does he no longer become a value option? Is it the mid-level? Is it at 10 mil per? And I know some of you are quickly going to point out, hey, the Warriors can't afford him. They're not going to be able to afford him. I don't know that yet, right? And if a certain somebody gets traded or a couple people renegotiate their contracts, maybe they can fit in a mid-level. I don't know yet. But here's my question with Watanabe, because he played 16 minutes per game last season for the Nets. That was a career high. It's not much, right? It's kind of a small sample size, but he is 29 years old. My question is, when you're looking at a high motor guy like that, how many more minutes can he play and remain efficient and still play that hard? Now, if he is your 6th, 7th guy and you're like, hey, 22 minutes, 23 minutes a game, I think no problem, right? But if a team were to overpay for him and say, hey, we're starting you at the 4, 30 minutes a game, now you're going to start to get diminishing returns, not only in his effort, but probably in his efficiency as a shooter. So yeah, he intrigues me as an option to add to this roster. I think the problem is he probably intrigues half the teams in the league. And so he is going to have his choice. And it feels like it would have to be one of those things where it's like, hey, I want to come play with Steph. I want to come play in the Bay Area. I want to come be a part of this, rather than just a payday for him, one that we know we probably can't give him. And so, listen, there's going to be some roster shuffle, and definitely I think they're going to attempt to manipulate the cap. I think most of us understand Dante DiVincenzo's probably going to go get paid somewhere else. But if he isn't, and we just don't know what the market is yet, I say this saying, look, I love me some Double D, right? Who doesn't, right? But at the same time, positional need, we bring back GP2, and you look at this roster. If I had to choose, if it was an option, hey, we can give Watanabe this money or Dante, sign me up for Yetta. Is that how you say his first name? Forgive me. But Watanabe, just because of his positional fit and the need for a stretch big who can play alongside of Kuminga, right? I didn't add that in here. Everybody's so thirsty to get Kuminga more opportunity. Well, Watanabe and he could play presumably at the same time, spacing the floor. And so, yeah, man, that's where you're going to miss Bob Myers being able to negotiate and manipulate these numbers. But as far as a realistic roster add through free agency, he's the first guy that comes to mind for me. I would love for the Warriors to be able to find a way to do that. We've got about, 3 weeks here until it all hits the fan. We're talking draft, free agency. Are y'all anticipating the most movement ever in a summer, or maybe the most big name movement? I think it's a real possibility. So we'll talk more trades, draft, and all that stuff. You let me know in the comments who you were eyeing in free agency, and don't tell me, Russ Westbrook or someone who, you know what I mean? It's something ridiculous, a more realistic option here. And I'll drop some more names here shortly. As always, I appreciate y'all. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.